Hey guys, welcome back to Project X, where we are taking you on a journey with us to find private label product opportunities, teaching you along the way so that you can build your own business using the same simple methods. Hey everybody, my name is Bradley Sutton from Helium 10, and I'm joined together by my partner in crime,
Tim Jordan from Private Label Legion.
Welcome to episode 4 of Project X. Now, if you would like a written version of this episode, go to helium10.com/X4. Let's get started. Hey, so last episode, we took those 5 products that we had found from the previous episode, and we narrowed it down to 3. Now, how did we do that? What we did was we went and we showed you how to validate on Amazon, how to validate using tools, how to validate off of Amazon if something really was opportunity. So if you haven't seen that episode yet, make sure to pause this one, go ahead and watch that episode. So now we're here on episode 4. What do they have to look forward to in this episode?
This is going to be an epic episode because we're actually going to show you ways in which we can find actual data, not just on search volume, but also on our competitors. So we're going to take these 3 products that we've narrowed it down to, and we're going to set up tests, right? No one's ever talked about this before, but this episode we're going to walk you through every step of how we set up test listings and how we set up test pay-per-click campaigns, where Amazon is going to tell us how many people are searching for exact keywords, as well as tell us how competitive these keywords are by giving us cost per click information so we can see how many people are competing specifically on each keyword. And what this is going to do for you is lower your risk, because you're not going to have to jump into a potentially saturated product and spend a lot of money to find out it wasn't good to begin with. So we're taking things in incremental steps, bite-sized chunks, to make it easier for you to launch, scale, or begin your own private label business.
As Tim said, this is something that I would say 99.99% of sellers are not doing. What we hear a lot of times is people saying, hey, there's no time to test products, all right? You've just got to go, right? But at the same time, this is one of those fears we talked about in the first episode, because people are like, man, I'm so scared to jump into Amazon. I don't want to have to dump $10,000, $15,000 into something and then it doesn't sell. So how does this help with that fear, and why do we even test?
So test listings are important because they help us to eliminate risk. And we eliminate risk, it allows us to make wiser decisions and also be a little bit more aggressive, because if we have less risk by not knowing which products are going to work or which ones aren't, we can actually put all of our energy, effort, and money towards the products that are more likely to work, which allows us to grow our business faster and to eliminate a lot of the potential for failure, which we definitely don't want. So another reason that we need to test is a lot of the information that we've used already to get these 3 product ideas is a little bit creative and subjective. Remember, we've bounced around a lot of different places and said, oh, this looks good on Pinterest, and I see a lot of interest here, and there's not many other sellers in this, so it sounds good. That's all good information, but now we need to take that information and put it into our little Amazon calculator, so to speak, which is what our tests are, and let Amazon kick us out that information to tell us whether it's good or not. Now, let me explain something about Helium 10 that a lot of software companies aren't really forthcoming about, and that is Helium 10 and most of these tools do not give us exact search volume. So Bradley, can you explain that a little bit and how the algorithm works?
Yeah, so first of all, let's just take it for, even a step back. What is search volume? Basically, search volume is how many people are searching for certain phrases on Amazon. A couple years ago, Amazon actually made this information public. So that was all out there. Everybody could see exactly how many times somebody was searching for collagen peptides, or in our case, coffin box or coffin shelf, things like that. We know, hey, exactly this many people were searching for it over the month. But last year, Amazon stopped that. So now all the tools are using estimations. Now, Helium 10's estimations are highly, highly accurate. Thanks to us being one of the first ones that had this information, we have the most historic data out there. So you can fully trust the estimations. But again, that's all they are. It's not an exact estimation on how much you could do on advertising for a certain keyword. Like, you don't know the potential, all right? So that is one thing that we're going to be doing in this episode. We're going to show you that regardless of what, a tool, even Helium 10 says is the search volume, we're going to see the exact potential of what some kind of advertising campaign for a certain keyword is going to do in a real listing. And that information is invaluable.
Yeah, so we're going to be able to tighten up this frame of reference that we have and tighten up our data points. And like Bradley was saying, the other thing that no tool does is tell you exactly how competitive the cost per click of your potential keyword or product is. Nobody offers that. But with a method that we're going to walk you through today, we're going to show you exactly how to get that information, which is massively valuable when you're determining which product that you're going to launch.
And that's super important because people have always asked Helium 10, like, hey, can you put cost per click estimations in your tool? And that is something that we've never felt comfortable doing because you have no idea. It could be different for different accounts, different products, different types of day. If you ever see that out there, just know that that's just a shot in the dark. All right. So that's why you don't have that in Helium 10. This is really the only way that you can get an accurate estimate on what cost per click is going to be by actually doing it in a test listing like this.
Yeah, and these test listings are super simple. On this episode, we're not going to go deep into listing optimization and logistics and all this. We're just setting up a very simple listing, just like we do in our own business every day, because we're only really looking for two things, and that's the number of impressions and the cost per click. And we have those simple pieces of information on our spreadsheet and built into our data points. It helps us to know which products to continue moving forward on, and also which keywords are more likely to work within those products. So we're actually getting information now that we're going to use later in our listing optimizations. This is a really cool step that we're going to show you. All right, another thing that we need to consider is that conversions at this point do not matter. Now, that's kind of a radical statement when it comes to most private label methods. I don't care how many products we sell in these tests.
Actually, you don't want to sell.
I don't want to sell products, and we'll explain that in a second. But our conversion rates don't matter. And a lot of people have argued with me and said, well, Tim, how do your methods work if you're not looking at conversions? And we'll explain that. But I'll tell you right now, you need to understand as we go through these steps of setting up our listings and setting up our PPC campaigns, we are not factoring in conversions. So take that completely off the table. If you're already familiar with Amazon or you've been selling Amazon before, that's a new idea to you, but it's very important.
Time out, Tim. One thing. Somebody might be jumping on this episode right now. Can you briefly give a 30-second explanation of what is PPC? Because we're going to be talking about that a lot in this episode. And, a lot of you guys who are selling, you know exactly what that is. But for those who don't know, what's PPC?
Yeah, PPC is pay per click. It's a system that a lot of online markets and online platforms have. Amazon specifically allows us to pay them when somebody clicks our ads. So if we're selling a product like this egg tray that we're going to run a test listing on, we tell Amazon, every time somebody picks a certain keyword, will you show our product? Will you show them our product as potential? And those are very specific ads. And we showed you already in our screen sharing, we circled, the sponsored ads, the PPC ads. And if somebody clicks our product, clicks on our listing, we pay per click. So it's very important that people actually click our ads. That's why I have to run these test listings and we get the information off of that. Another problem that people have argued with me about this method is that it's not fast enough. And I call this the race to launch. Now, what this means is a lot of people are discovering products through, I would say, ineffective methods or very risky methods. And a lot of these methods use algorithms that show how many people are selling a product. And we've talked about that before, like with the burrito blankets. We don't really care about sales revenue. But if we were looking at a product like burrito blankets and we thought, hey, there's opportunity here, we would need to get into that race to launch because we know based on the Alibaba listings and other things like that, that product's going to become saturated extremely, extremely quickly. So a lot of schools of thought say, hey, there's no time to test because by the time it takes to set up your tests and run your tests and get the data and then launch, other people are going to beat you. Here's the thing. We're finding products through this method that are so far ahead of the trends that there's not much of a race. Think about the coffin box. Remember we saw the sales volume of that listing of the black coffin box. Remember? They kept running out of inventory, but they were having consistent sales and they had inventory over the last 12 months.
Yeah.
I suspect that if we weren't exposing this product to you publicly right now, in another 12 months, that product would be just as likely to succeed. So we're literally so far ahead of the curve in this strategy and these techniques that we use to find potential products that we've eliminated most of the risk of this race to launch and needing to launch fast. So what's that mean? It minimizes risk. That's everything that we've talked about to you is minimizing risk. We need to make sure that we're not spending money on products that are going to become saturated and super competitive and eventually we're not going to make any profit on. Now, why is this important? Here's another thing that is really important to consider. We should not be Amazon sellers.
What you talking about, Willis?
It's a crazy thought, right? We're talking about Amazon. But if our mentality is to become an Amazon seller, we're not thinking large enough. We need to be product sellers. We need to be finding products that people want, that people will buy. And we use this amazing platform, which is Amazon. So we need to be product sellers using Amazon as opposed to Amazon sellers. Now, here's what's important about that. The methods that we're using are not some hack. They're not some trick. They're not some workaround to get a quick burst of money and then end up in a saturated product. We are teaching and we're using established long-term business strategies. That's super important here, and it's super important for you to remember. So when we take a step back and we get out of all the shiny object syndrome and the new launch method and the new hack to rank this product, and we just think about finding a product that people want and selling it, then we can slow down. But the ceiling to our business is much higher because we're building an established model of business and not just jumping from internet marketing to digital selling to all these little hacks and tricks that people are focusing on. This is how you build a real long-term sustainable business that has a higher asset value in years to come.
Don't worry, guys. We're not going to take 3 hours and go through the whole entire process for all 3 products. What we're going to do today is going to show you the blueprint using the egg tray as our test product, and we're going to make a test listing for that. The other 2, we're going to follow that same blueprint off camera, Tim and I, and we're just going to show you this one today.
And that's super important because it doesn't matter if we're selling an egg tray or a coffin box or anything. The process and the tactics and the method is the same. So again, we're trying to keep this case study somewhat short so that you can watch the whole thing and not get too run down with all the minute details. But keep this in mind, the exact same process that we're going to use for today's example, which is the egg tray, is the exact same process you can use for any product on Amazon.
All right, so Tim just talked about ordering samples. Samples, what the heck are we talking about? Are we talking about actually placing an order with a factory that we're going to buy from in China?
No. To set up a test listing, you actually have to have something in hand. And those items really need to be in Amazon's inventory, which means they have to be FBA. So what's that mean? We can't set up a test listing with imaginary items. We actually have to have products that we can send into Amazon so that they'll have FBA listings, those prime listings, so that we get good placement of our PPC campaigns to get accurate data. So if we're going to get our hands on products, we want to be quick and we want to be inexpensive, right? We don't want to spend a lot of money and we don't want to spend a lot of time sourcing these huge orders just to test them. But what's interesting is the products that we want to sell don't have to match the products that we get now for our test, right? What's the one thing that has to match?
The keywords.
Keywords. So as an example, if we wanted to source a really nice version of this wooden egg tray to potentially sell and our MOQ is 1,000, we can't afford 1,000 of these and we don't want to wait 30 days for production and 30 days for shipping. We just have to get our hands on a few items that match the keywords wooden egg tray or egg tray, right? So there are a lot of online and offline places that you can do that. I know people that have made 10 prototypes using 3D printers. They're very expensive, compared to like injection mold production, but you can get just 10 units of a unique prototype. I know people that have made things in their own garage. I've done that before, made wooden items in my garage with Lowe's and Home Depot tools and send them into tests, and they ended up being wildly successful. Or you can use online platforms, one of my favorite being Etsy, right? So let's just, for intents and purposes here, let's jump on Etsy and let's see if we can find some wooden egg trays.
All right, so we're here on Etsy. Let's look for wooden egg trays.
All right, so we look at a very specific keyword like this. There are a lot of options. And remember, if we're looking at Etsy here and we actually don't like any of these products, let's say theoretically, they all look awful. It doesn't matter if they're cheap, if they're inexpensive, if they're the wrong size or the wrong shape compared to what we want to sell long term, because all we have to do is match the keywords. So if we want to sell a wooden egg tray, all we have to do is find a wooden egg tray. So let's go to one of these. Let's go to like this one right here. All right, so this does a few things for me. It means that I can buy some of these instantly, but it also tells me that people are already selling wooden egg trays on Etsy. Look at the price point of this, $38. This seller has a lot of reviews, right? So this is just further validation that we may be onto something, because on the first 2 or 3 pages of egg trays, we did not see a wooden version.
Before we filmed this episode today, Tim already was on this whole process of ordering samples. So you actually have the egg tray here, right? Let's do a big reveal.
I present to you the wooden egg tray. Now, what I love about this product is it's easy to source. Guys, we can get 10 of these off of Etsy. You could buy 10 of these right now for $38 a piece. You could even buy the 12-hole version if you wanted to for even less. And just for a couple $100, maybe $300, you can have these in your hand also. And what this now allows us to do is get this whole project started with just a few $100 investment. And this is a simple product. You see how easy this is. Literally go to Etsy. If you've got, a grandpa that's a woodworker, he could have made these for you in his garage or his wood shop. If this is any product, this could be the coffin box, this could be anything else that you could find on Etsy or Google Shopping or sometimes eBay. Remember, it doesn't have to be an exact match. So if this tests well, we may not use this exact same wood or this exact same shape or this exact same style. It doesn't matter. There are so many people in this private label business that worry about steps 12 when they should be worrying about step number 4. So all we have to do is get our hands on a product that matches the keywords: egg tray, wooden egg tray. Doesn't matter if it's 18 holes or 12 holes or 24. It doesn't matter. But now we have our hands on a product and we can get started. So in the rest of this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to walk you through the process with these wooden egg trays of setting up the test listings, setting up the PPC campaigns. We're going to show you some really kind of cutting edge tricks and information that I suspect most of you have never heard of, really fixing problems that most people have never even seen needed to be solved. And we're going to uncover that all for you as we go through this.
And remember too, you might be worried about, wait a minute, what do you mean make it in the garage? What if people leave bad reviews, or what if people return it? Remember, that doesn't matter. None of that matters. This is not the listing that we make today is not going to be our final listing. We're trashing this listing later and starting from scratch in a later episode once we actually have our actual product ready. At the beginning of the episode, we asked you guys how many of you are already selling on Amazon. So we're not sure exactly how many of you are, but I know there's plenty who probably aren't selling on Amazon now, and they might be like, where do I even begin? So briefly, Tim, can you talk about how to even set up an Amazon account?
Yeah, Amazon is the easiest platform in the world to start selling on immediately. You can start as a personal seller. You can start as a business seller with a business entity that you have. There's a million ways to do it. I don't want to get into all the different ways and different processes for people in different countries, because I know anybody around the world essentially can sell on Amazon. But if you'll check the show notes below this video, we have a resources page that you can go to. We literally have information and walkthroughs for nearly anybody. But the truth is, it's very simple. You can get started immediately. When you get started and you have an account, you have what's called a Seller Central account. Seller Central account is your portal as an Amazon seller into the back end of Amazon, where you're going to do everything from see all your metrics and update your information to loading product listing and manage your orders, everything. So let's assume that everybody here is familiar with their Seller Central account. If you're not, you can pause, you can get familiar with Seller Central and start in here. All right, so once you've got your Amazon Seller Central account, you're going to log in, and the top bar of this is a lot of words, but the one that we're going to worry about right now is the inventory button. And you look at the inventory button, you drop down to the selection that's add a product. That's what we're going to do right now, is essentially add a product. So go ahead and click that and we'll show you what that looks like.
Okay. I believe the next thing that we want to click on, since it's not in Amazon's catalog, is create a new product listing, right?
Correct.
All right. So now we are here. It says search for your product's category. So what do I do now?
So this is interesting. We can either let Amazon guess what our product category is, or we can tell it exactly what our product category is. We'll show you both methods. And this is important because if you have your product assigned to the wrong category, you can have some problems maybe with your PPC campaigns or your listing indexing, which we'll talk about that word here shortly. But let's go ahead and just type egg tray in the product category auto search.
Interesting. Look what I found right here.
It's pretty exact. So this one is refrigerator parts at the top. We've got large appliance accessories on the bottom. We definitely don't want that. So it's actually kind of interesting because it doesn't immediately show us one that's a perfect option, right? So because most of these are in home and kitchen that are down below, it probably doesn't matter too much which one of these we select. So it's definitely not deviled egg plates. It's not that specific. It's not a serving tray. So basically any of these would work because we're in kitchen storage and organization, food storage and organization sets. It's not necessarily a set, so that's not a set. So
would we at any time want to actually just look at some of the regular egg trays on there and see if some of the top selling ones are in a certain category and try and get in that one? Or?
Yeah, we could definitely figure that out that way. Because we're not 100% sure, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and just type in egg tray and see what it's categorized at on its regular listing, and then we'll go back in and manually select that.
And while some of the things we had said, hey, it's not too important, like maybe we don't have to have the best picture or the best package or brand new, but this kind of is important because the category you're in kind of reflects how what Amazon is going to show you for as far as the PPC or advertising. Like if we were going to put our egg tray into that refrigerator category, what might happen with the PPC, with the keywords that we're trying to rank for?
Amazon might not think that it's a relevant keyword based on our product category, and it can mess up our data. So we need to get pretty specific here. So if we'll go to this number one Amazon's choice, which is this, this egg tray here, let's find out exactly what category it's in. And we do that by scrolling down to this information.
Yeah, and this is what happens sometimes in Amazon too. This is not, this is an Amazon issue where they're actually not even showing us what the subcategory is on this one. Like it just tells us, hey, it's in home and kitchen. It is in a subcategory, but it's not even telling us which one. A cool thing about Helium 10 is we can actually see that right here on this search page. It's telling us what the category and subcategories are. If you look here, this one here is in kitchen and dining and food storage and organization sets. Here's one that definitely does look like and is a refrigerator egg tray. I see another one here that's food storage and organization sets. What else do we see here? Platters, serving trays, refrigerator egg trays.
So it looks like a lot of these are the food storage and organization sets. So let's go back and let's select that one.
Let's do that. Was that here on this page?
Yes. So the food storage and organization sets.
Perfect.
That I was worried it wasn't a set, but Amazon's telling us that's relevant. So I guess we don't want the travel to go. So let's select this one right here.
Sounds good.
And if you wanted to manually search that in the previous page, you could. You can go in and type this in and find it.
All right. So now I see the very first thing. I mean, I'm assuming that asterisk means I have to enter something into these fields, right?
You absolutely do.
So this product ID, what's the product ID?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different options as far as product IDs. There's ISBN numbers, which are for books. There's GTIN numbers, but the most common worldwide are UPC codes. So we're going to use, in this example, a UPC code. And there's a lot of information, a lot of debate, a lot of different schools of thought about what type of UPC codes that we should be using. The honest answer is we need to be using GS1 certified UPC codes. And that's all I'm going to say for now. But if you'll check the show notes, we have some resources on the resources page for you that explains more in detail about getting these UPC codes and where you're going to acquire those from. So we've typed in a UPC code that's going to help us set up our listing. And that UPC code will forever be tied to this product. So the next thing is a product name. Now the product name is going to be essentially the beginning of our listing title, right? So for ease of purpose, let's call this thing a wooden egg tray. Now we'll go in and we'll add some more details out later, but for now, this is a great way to get started. And the brand name. Let's name this Gee's Chicken Coop.
Gee's.
That'll be the brand name.
Am I allowed to put apostrophes in
Yes.
the brand name? Okay, Gee's
Chicken Coop.
How do you spell coop?
COOP.
Cool.
So we're just pretending we have an entire brand of chicken stuff, right? Because that's all this is for test listing. We're just making this stuff up as we go. So we've got wooden egg tray, Gee's Chicken Coop, we've got the product ID. And now if you look at the top of this, you see this little triangle? This is Amazon telling us, hey, we need more information. Now, the variations we're not going to worry about. Variations is if we had like this shirt in 6 different colors, we would need to add all the different colors. Images is going to be important later, but we can actually set the listing up now without images. So let's click on this offer button and find out what information it wants. All right, price. Now we noticed that on Amazon, a lot of these egg trays, the plastic ones, the cheap ones, were selling for anywhere from $9 to $12 to $13. Right now, we're not even worried about what our final price would be because we haven't fully sourced this product. We don't know exactly what our shipping costs, what our production costs are going to be, but we want to price this thing high. And Bradley, why do we want to price this high?
Because remember what we said at the beginning, we actually do not want conversions on this test.
We do not want to sell these products right now. We're buying information, we're paying for information. So if we have this wonderful Gee's Chicken Coop brand egg tray and we load it onto Amazon and the price is right and the listing's great, guess what? People are going to buy it. And that's a problem for us because we actually want this product to stay in Amazon's inventory to gather data for us. This is kind of a interesting problem. Most people, why do you not want to sell? It's because our methods are different. This is completely new. This is a new tactic. We are just going to say maybe 10 of these items that we bought off of Etsy are going to sit in there. We want them to sit in there for a long time and not sell. So if we saw that the Amazon average price was $9 to $12 or $13 for the plastic ones, and we know that on Etsy they're 38 or 40 or 29, somewhere in there, we want to price this thing a little bit higher than most people would be willing to pay. So let's list it at maybe $60.
Holy cow.
$60.
Gee, why are you charging so much for your chicken coop egg trays?
Crazy, right? Now the seller SKU. The seller SKU is a unique internal item number that we give to products when we set them up on Amazon. The SKU is not seen publicly. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can be numbers, it can be letters, it can be anything. So I like having just a quick little reference. So let's just call this test egg tray. So that's our seller SKU. The condition, there's going to be a drop-down button here, and we're going to select new. Now, why are these drop-down menus here? Remember, a lot of people on Amazon sell used items like books. They sell packaged, they sell items with damaged packaging. They sell used in good, used in bad condition. There's a lot of different categories and types of products that people sell, but since we're private label sellers, we're only selling new products. So we're going to select new here. And it has quantity, but quantity right now is not a big deal to us because right now it's pre-selected. I will ship this item myself. So this is what we talked about, merchant fulfilled. Now for the test, we do not want merchant fulfilled because Amazon is going to give our test PPC ads and ad campaigns better priority, which means better information for us if we ship to Amazon and sell these products FBA. Yep.
All right. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to switch this to Amazon will ship and provide customer service. And so what's going to happen is that now that quantity is going to be grayed out.
It's not required anymore.
Yeah.
So we can hit save and finish and we'll move on.
All right, so now it says your listing is being created. This process may take up to 30 minutes. In my experience, it's like 5 minutes, max. It actually might be there by the time we get out of this. So it says to change your listing, go to the Manage Inventory page, select your product. And so that's what we can do. But at this point now, what's the next step?
The next step is we need to figure out which keywords we're actually going to test. Because remember, we have egg tray, we have wooden egg tray, but let's go back and find maybe a similar egg tray or something similar on Amazon and figure out which keywords they're indexing for, which means they're associated with, so that we can come up with a list of between 5 and 8 keywords are kind of our magic number. If we can find 5 to 8 either short tail or long tail keywords that we can associate with this product, then we're going to actually load those into the listing once it finishes being created. And then we're also going to use those exact same keywords to run our PPC tests on.
So now here's my question though. We see that the main keywords such as egg tray, these eventually are going to be our target goals with our actual product. We want to be showing right here on the top. But right now, there are, I remember see on like page 2 or 3 or 4 of one of these keywords, like some wooden egg trays. So here's the question. When there is not a good performing product that's similar to ours, do we still want to analyze those actual wooden trays, or should we analyze one of these plastic trays since these are the ones whose keywords we're actually going to target?
Yeah, so let's do both.
Okay.
So what I would do is let's take the number 1 seller right here, which is this listing right here, and let's go ahead and analyze it.
All right. Me personally, I'm interested in where they're getting their sales from. Let me just quickly check over here, just an estimate. If this is one of the best-selling ones. I'm assuming it is because it says it's Amazon's choice for egg tray. But looking at Helium 10 here, we can see the estimated sales of, they're selling almost 1,000 units a month. So I'd be curious what kind of keywords might be driving those sales. So remember the way to find that. We talked about this briefly in some of our other episodes. The only way that Amazon can get money is if a customer searches for something, they see something they like, they click on it, and then they buy it. Then Amazon gets their 15% commission, right? So Amazon is incentivized to try and show the products for searches that give them the best chance to get that sale, right? So basically, if something is on page 1 consistently, that means there must be some kind of behavior that Amazon has been analyzing from customers to say that, hey, if I show this product to customers who are searching for egg tray, there's a good chance that I'm going to get that sale. So that's why right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to search maybe for keywords where they're organic ranked, meaning where they show up on a search result page is on page 1. Let's just say from 1 to, actually, I'm going to go a little bit better. I'm going to go like the top part of page 1, like 1 to 20 instead of like 1 to 40 or 50. Now, search volume, again, it's different. There's no exact search volume of what's a good search volume and what's a bad search volume. But in this case, for egg tray niche, what would you say I should put as the minimum just so we can get a little bit more narrow of some keywords
Yeah, if
here?
we want to narrow it down, let's make it maybe 250.
Sounds good. 250. All right. And again, this one is by default word count. We talked about this, I believe, in episode 2 or 3, where a lot of one-word keywords don't have a lot of buyer intent. Like I personally don't search keywords to buy with only one word. It's mainly to browse.
That would be like us searching for egg.
Yeah,
could
or
be anything.
Tray. You know.
Yeah, it could be anything. So
Too broad.
at least 2 words really narrows things down.
All right, so we got a list of 44 keywords here. And so what do you do? Do you just like start, deleting the ones you don't want to use, or?
Yeah, so I'm gonna literally be creative here. I'm gonna think about how I would describe this, and I'm gonna do a combination of more exact search terms. So wooden egg tray, wooden egg holder, and the most popular ones. So we see that egg holder right here is very, very popular. We see that search volume on that is high, but we know that egg holder is also going to be the most saturated. There's going to be a lot of people targeting that. So we know that there's already a lot of search volume on that. We don't necessarily need the impression number on that, but we may want the cost per click. So I'm going to say egg holder we want to know because that's kind of like the pinnacle. That's what we really want to shoot for as far as getting on that page 1.
What's our target here? How many are we looking for for this one?
For this one, we can go pretty high. We can target for a total of 10,000 searches, maybe.
Okay.
But we really want between 5 and 8 different keywords. Some
Now,
very specific.
I see here a lot of ones that say refrigerator. Like, would you automatically say, hey, no, I don't want to do that one because maybe the people searching for that are the ones who are looking for those refrigerator trays?
Yeah, I'd eliminate refrigerator.
Okay, so what I'm going to do right here on the top is I'm going to say, instead of me going one by one, I'm going to say exclude phrases that contain refrigerator. All right, and then that'll filter that out. That takes us down from 44 keywords now down to 35. So maybe the rest of these one by one, you just tell me which ones to delete here as we go on.
So I would say let's keep maybe the top 5,
Okay.
right? And then we would start also adding wood because remember, the listing that we reversed ASIN search was not wood. So wood's not going to be there, right? So we're not going to see wood, but we know that ours is wood. There's also other keywords that would attach this like rustic. So I think that wood, wooden, and rustic are big. So let's do this. Let's take maybe the top 3 or the top 4, and then we'll use those, and then we'll also add our own keywords.
You want me to sort this by search volume, or that doesn't matter at
No,
this
I think
point?
this is good.
Okay.
I think we're going to take the top 3 for this specific one,
Okay.
and this is what we're going to do. So we're going to do egg holder, egg storage, egg tray, and then I like the words wood, wooden, and rustic. Now, this is just us being creative. Remember, not every step that we can do here is just push a button and all of, our wildest dreams come true. We have to be a little creative here. And what's interesting is since we're testing, I don't have to know if any of these are good because the test is going to tell us. So we could say wood egg holder. We could say rustic egg holder. And then we could do the same thing here with egg tray. So we could have egg tray, we could have wood egg tray, we could have rustic, we could have wooden egg tray, right? So really quickly, we get a lot of keywords that are very focused, very exact, but also by using just the keywords egg holder, egg storage, and egg tray, we're getting the most probably saturated and competitive keywords, and we already have a good idea of the search volume. But remember, part of this test is to figure out how competitive this is. So if we could essentially run a pay-per-click campaign for egg holder and be the #1 spot, and we're the only one on that entire page. It's a nice wooden rustic version. I think that's really important information to know. So let's go ahead and do that. I think we've got like we've
So
actually
that's
got
it.
a few more than 8.
We're good to go from this.
That's all there is we take this information and we add maybe the differentiator. Now, if we were doing something like coffin shelf, we'd see the same thing. You've seen us do the reverse Cerebro for the coffin shelf already. We would have coffin shelf, we'd have coffin bookshelf, and then we'd have black coffin shelf and Gothic home decor and coffin shelf decor. We just add all these keywords that we already know about, because in this research process, we've already kind of become keyword experts. And we're looking at the same information. We're just utilizing that information, those keywords, in different ways. So let's go ahead and go back to our listing.
Sure.
Let's see if it's ready. And if it's ready, we're going to go ahead and start plugging in information. All right, so we're back in our Seller Central account, and it looks like our listing has popped up. So if we go up here to
Inventory.
and hit the Manage Inventory button.
Yep. And here we are on this page.
So you remember, this is the SKU that we put in. This is the title. This is our ASIN. So now we've created our own ASIN. So congratulations, we have an ASIN. Now, I'm going to point out something very briefly we're going to come back to later. Our status is suppressed, which means Amazon is telling us this listing is suppressed. And there's a lot of reasons for that. We still have a lot of work to do to get this listing ready. But it has a lot to do with this. And this is one of the cool tactics and secrets that we have figured out along the way that we're going to talk to you about later. So go ahead and click on to edit.
Okay.
We're going to go ahead and edit this listing. This is where we're going to start putting in more information. Now, remember, when we looked at this before, we had these triangles. These triangles are what Amazon is telling us must be done. Aside from that, there's a lot of things that we can or we can't do at this point, but these are things that absolutely have to happen. So right now we're in the Vital Information tab. And if we scroll down, we see things that are very, very important to put in. These are things that Amazon is telling us, hey, you have to have this. Remember, we've got wooden egg tray. We've got Gee's Chicken Coop as our brand name. The size, you see the examples here. It shows a lot of things like, shoe size and clothing size. That doesn't apply, but this is what really matters. So for color, let's just call it brown.
Whoa.
Seems easy, right?
Earth-shattering information there.
And on the color map, we're just going to type the same thing in. We're going to call that brown. And if you wanted to know more about what they were looking for, you can hit these little information buttons, and these will actually drop down and explain to you more about what Amazon's looking for. But this is pretty easy. Color brown. If you also notice, remember there was a triangle up here, it's disappeared. So Amazon's telling us, hey, you got that taken care of. So now let's jump over here and click description. So product description. The example is a smoked ham. I don't know why. I have all the products they could have selected to smoked ham, but we're going to add our own product description. Now remember, this listing does not have to be optimized. This is a very, very basic listing, but we have to have something here. So what would be a very basic description of this?
What I would like to do here, you tell me, since I've never done this before, but this is something, since I know it's not so important about the description and the bullet points, but we have to have both. How about we make sure that we have those keywords? Because that's another thing. We cannot run PPC or advertisement for those keywords that we had identified unless we have them in our listing. So it's not like we can just throw anything in here.
Yeah.
We have got to at least have those words. And so what I want to do here is I'm going to go to Scribbles here in Helium 10, and this will just make sure that we have those keywords that we had targeted. So let's go ahead and open Scribbles, and we're going to put some of these keywords. So we had egg holder, egg storage, and egg tray. So those are the first three. I'm going to put those here: egg holder, egg storage, was it?
Yep.
And egg tray. Now give me the what are the
Let's
variations of it?
Wooden egg tray,
Wooden
egg
egg
tray,
tray,
rustic egg tray,
rustic egg tray. Okay.
and then egg tray wood.
All right.
And then we could do rustic egg holder,
Okay.
wooden egg holder wood. So you see, this is the exact same keywords that we wrote out earlier. It's extremely simple. Now, what we were talking about indexing, let me explain that briefly. Amazon has to associate your product with a keyword. They have to. What that does is it keeps us from running a pay-per-click sponsored ad for Nike shoes on a computer hard drive listing, right? Amazon's going to say, whoa, those aren't related. You can't run the ad. And the entire purpose of this test listing is to run ads. So we have to make sure that Amazon is associating our product with these keywords that we need to use. All right, so we've got our keywords, and we're going to put those in multiple locations of the listing. And the terms that we use are front end and back end. The front end of the listing is the places that customers would see. Those are things like your title. Those are things like your description and your bullet points, which you have 5 of. The back end is where we tell Amazon exactly which keywords they should be associating with our product. So here in Scribbles, if you will show everybody how to use this and plug in different keywords in different places.
So what I did here was, if you recall, I was typing at 100 words per minute that Tim was not easily impressed on. All of those keyword phrases that he was dictating to me. Right here on the left-hand side, what happened when I put apply was it divided all those phrases into the individual words. So on the top right here, let me grab that fancy pen. On the top right here are the individual words that make up those 9 phrases that Tim gave me, all right? So what happens is every time that I use an individual word, it'll put a line through it and tell me how many times I've used it. And if I use it in phrase form, we're going to talk later on that on the listing optimization episode that we're going to do, but having things in phrase form kind of sends these signals to Amazon that, hey, this is something that's relevant to this listing. So that's why we have 2 different sections here. So the title was the only thing that we had done on the listing, if I'm not mistaken. So wooden egg tray. And what happened here, since I had that in the title, you can see that we have trays already taken out, wooden, egg, and then wooden egg tray. So what we're going to do here is let's just go ahead and try and fill out some of these bullet points. And then we don't want to just throw in all these phrases and keyword stuff because nobody likes a keyword stuff listing. So we just got to kind of have a creative way to work some of these phrases and words in there. So
yeah, and again, this is very simple. We are not creating this listing to convert. We're not trying to make sales here, but we don't want to look just absolutely ridiculous. So bullet point 1, we could say, great rustic wood tray.
Or egg tray?
Yeah, great rustic egg tray. I love how Scribbles is helping us here autocorrect all of this. So then bullet point 2, we could be this beautiful egg holder. Look, another one is great for your kitchen.
All right.
So what are the keywords do we still have to use? We have to use wood storage. Let's say this wood egg storage.
This is getting to be a pretty. And guys, please do not make a clip of this video and say, this is how Bradley and Tim suggest to optimize your listing. That's a future episode. We're just trying to throw something together really fast here.
Just for the test. That's all that matters. Don't overthink this. So let's say
you can use this for egg storage. Is that too ridiculous?
No, it's great.
Let's do it.
Look, we marked off another one. This wooden egg holder.
Ooh, this wooden egg holder
is egg-tastic. Is excellent.
Egg-tastic. Let's do it.
Egg-tastic.
All right. Now, at this point, we're kind of just like stretching it. So one cool thing is we have to have a description and a bullet point. So are you okay with me just copying these bullet points and just throwing them in the description too? The same thing?
Absolutely.
Just line by line? All right. So let's do that.
Have we marked off everything?
No, but that's what I want to get to next. I'm like, hey, what just doesn't make sense, we'll just, kind of throw into the back end of the listing. Great. Our individual words we haven't used wood. Okay. Is egg. You can use this for egg storage in a wood setting. There, I threw in. Now look, every single word we have here, we have used once, but we just don't have the phrases. But
that's fine. Okay. We'll save those for later.
So again, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy each of these bullet points. So paste it here into the description. And we're going to talk about this in the listing optimization episode. But on desktop, the first text that you see on a desktop computer, the first text that you see after the title is the bullet points. But if you're looking at Amazon on the mobile app, the first one that you see is actually the description. So that's something to keep in mind. Don't just concentrate on one or the other because both are equally important depending on their computer. So we talked about back-end search terms. That's right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to copy all of those phrases and just duplicate them back here. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to copy all of those original phrases and paste them back here. with no, a lot of people ask me, hey, do I need to put commas? Do I need to put punctuation? No, you don't have to do any of that stuff. You just put them all in order, and Amazon does recognize that these are in phrase form. We just have a limit of 249 characters here in the search terms. And I believe Helium 10 here is actually showing me how many I've used. And it says a 129. So it's definitely good. So as you can see here on the left side, we have used all of our phrases at least once, and we have used all of our words once. So theoretically speaking, we should index for this. So after that, we're going to off screen just copy this to our listing. I know we can do this on screen. It's so fast. Let's go ahead and do that here. Let's go back to our edit info. Product description. That's what we have all the way down here. And we'll paste it right here. Great rustic egg tray, this beautiful egg holder. Key product features. You might be like, hey, wait a minute, where's the bullet points? It's right here. They just call, and Amazon, it's called key product features. And we just put it line by line. Here's the first line. You hit add more, and we can go ahead and put the second line, the second bullet point, the third bullet point, and the eggs tactic bullet point. Is there anything left on the description page I need?
No, we don't have any little triangles, so we know that that's all Amazon requires.
In the keywords, that's where you find the search terms, or what's called the back-end search terms. So let's go back to Scribbles, and I'm going to copy those search terms, those 129 characters. If you guys can't see that, it's right here at the bottom of my screen. And I'm going to go to what is called search terms right here, and just paste that there.
Now, I want to say this. There's a lot of inputs on all of these screens that we're not worrying about.
Yeah.
And that's fine. There's a lot of very specific inputs that Amazon asks for hazmat items and very specific items with lots of variations like sizes and colors. Remember, two things. One, this is a very basic listing just for testing. We don't care if we sell any. I can't stress that enough because there are so many people that are seeing us do this, and it's very different, especially if you're an experienced Amazon seller. It's very different than what you're used to. Remember, this is just super basic. We need to be able to fire these things off fast. We can do lots of tests. Do not assume that this is how we optimize listings, please. The actual optimization will be covered completely and in depth on a future episode. So if we're looking at this, the last triangle that we have right here is images. So if we go into the images section, and what we're going to have to do here is upload images. Remember, these can be very basic. These do not have to be really in-depth. We just need enough imagery here for Amazon to consider our listing as, legitimate so that it shows up in indexing results, and also it'll run the PPC campaigns. Now, what I like to do is just 3 images, maybe 3 different angles. So head on, back, and an angle. And remember, we have to be terms of service compliant, so we have to have white background. I would not spend money to go get professional photography and do infographics and text overlays on your images. Nothing like that. Let's keep it extremely simple because remember, we don't want people to buy it anyways. We just have to look relevant. So if you look in the show notes, there's a lot of resources that we've listed for you for online services where you can upload your picture and it automatically does white backgrounds, or you can use services like Fiverr or Upwork and hire someone extremely inexpensively just to cut your product out and put an Amazon terms of service compliant white background on it. And then we're going to upload this. So Bradley,
yep.
Let's go ahead and take a second and let's go get some quick images done.
What we went over today was why you should make a test listing, what it is, and we actually went ahead and went through the whole process from A to Z on how to set up the test listing for this egg tray. Now, in the next episode, we're going to come back and have those images. We're also going to show you how to check to make sure you're indexed. So after we make sure that we are indexed for those keywords that Tim had found, we're going to actually create that PPC advertising campaign that is going to get us that valuable information that we need in order to make our actual listing later. Hey, regardless of when you're watching this episode, make sure to go to our Helium 10 users group on Facebook. You can tag either Tim or myself with any questions you have about this episode or any of the ones we've filmed so far. So this was episode 4 of Project X. Wait until you see episode 5 of Project X, and we will see you there.